What's up, beautiful people, and welcome to the last real estate market update analysis for the region of Montreal for December 2024. You heard it right. So this is where we're going to look at the bold, the bad, and the beautiful for everything that happened in the last month of December 2024. And as we always do, as usual, at the end of it, we're going to compare what's sold with real estate agent versus what's sold with for sales by owner. By the way, my name is Jonathan Cabana, your real estate agent for the Greater Montreal. And if you're looking to sell, buy, invest, or relocate, all the information will be in the description. Don't hesitate to give me a call so we can ask ourselves a couple of questions to see if I can possibly help you out. In the meantime, cue intro and see you on the other side. So, like I said in the introduction, today we're going to look at how the market behaved in the month of December 2024, how much single homes, plexes, and condos sold all together, put together in the month of December. Why? Because it gives us an idea as to what's going to happen also in 2025. And also at the end, as I do usually, is compare what's sold with FSBO, so for sale by owners, and with realtors. So we can actually make an idea out of if I would have a plan to sell, and because facts don't care about our feelings, what would be the best strategies to actually implement in order to get my house sold the most efficiently possible. So without any further ado, let's dive into this. When we look at the stats for the month of December 2024, we looked at this is Montreal, and we see that there's 1,201 houses that sold. That's an augmentation of 51% in comparison to last year, making it a beautiful month for sellers. We have actually 7,539 listings, an augmentation of 8% in comparison to last year. When we always compare those two stats here, what we actually see is that if we would continue over and over again of having this much more listing in comparison to those sales, in comparison to all the other data here, we would be actually missing houses on the market as we are right now, pushing the price further upwards. So it is a great time to sell if you are in Montreal. When we dive into a little bit deeper, so let's go into the rabbit hole together. We know that there's 1,201 houses that sold in December of 2024, a variation of 51% in comparison to last year. And when you look at this, so you see the dark blue line that you have here actually shows the difference. And when you look here, as the interest rate went down in September and October, and then November and December, the gap between what sold this year and last year only gets higher and higher and higher, meaning that we are getting back into a seller's market. We do have right now 7,539 new listing. Well, not new listing, but active listing right now, an augmentation of 8% in comparison to last year. And what we should take care about is this here in comparison to this here. Since we don't have necessarily a lot of new listing on the houses, what we do have is a lot of sales. So we are reaching a gap between what the offer is and the demand is. And that reflects in the prices actually, because when you look at single family homes, you had an augmentation of 10% in comparison to the last year at the same period. So the median price of the homes last year between today, if you had bought a house $100,000, today would be worth $110,000, and you wouldn't have changed anything in the house. Condominiums got an upwards of 4% in comparison to last year, and Plexes, which actually shows that it's still a good save value for a lot of buyers, got up by 8% in comparison to the other one. Then let's dive in a little bit deeper in the rabbit hole and go look at the single family home market. So here in the last month, we had 291 sales, an augmentation of 51% in comparison to last year. And what we have actually 1,604 listings, an augmentation of 6% in the last year. The median price here, $760, an augmentation in 5%. And when we look in the graphs, what we see is that in comparison to last year, the prices have gone a lot up. Then we look at the average time selling days. We're looking at -7 days, so it's more active. If you've been following me in the last couple of months, you've seen that you had an augmentation in the numbers of days houses were on the market. With the drop in the interest rate, what you're seeing right now is that the houses don't stay on the market. And here, depending on the gap of homes that you actually have in the price range, this tells you about the numbers of days that it's going to stay on the market. This being said, what tells me that we're in a seller's market is this graph here. On 100% of homes that sold, 23% were under the asking price, so which is good, but 71% were at the asking price and 6% was over the asking price. So we're still seeing overbidding depending which type of houses that you have on the market. Then let's go look at the condominiums for a second here. You had 75 sales, an augmentation of 52%. You do have 4,688 listings on the market right now, an augmentation of 14% in comparison to last year. The median price is 465, an augmentation of 4%. And what we're seeing here is that in comparison to last year, condos stayed 2 days more. So if you're listing a condo today, the average sale time would be 75 days. And again, you see those by brackets depending on what type of brackets that you have. But when you have 580 and 7, that's where you have the biggest discrepancy, where it's actually lower than the other ones. This being said, again, when we look at this graph right here, what we're seeing is that we have 79% of the condos that sold at the asking price, 6% over bidding price, and 15% under asking. Again, this showing that we are in a seller's market. Then when we continue with Plexes, and that's where the refuge, it's like a refugee valley. So we see that there's 235 Plexes that sold, an augmentation of 51% in comparison to last year. So we're seeing big numbers going upwards in terms of sales. We do have 1,247 active listings right now, a diminishing of 8%. So this tells us that you have less Plexes for sale right now, which will actually have the effect of driving the prices upwards. And we are still seeing that right here, having a median price for Plexes at $840,000, an augmentation of 10% in comparison. And bear in mind something, I do want to, because I get this question often, the price range when we're telling 10%, it doesn't take into account any type of renovation. It is, so you would have bought something, and it's one of the principal character that we take into comparison when we do a market evaluation. Whereas in the time frame of a year, the market will move up and down. And what we have been seeing constantly this year is that Plexes, as the rates go down, actually got the most value up and value up. So a Plex that you would have bought last year for 100K, you would have made 10 grand on it without putting a single nail in it. Why? Because that's the stats, and that's actually what's insane about it. It's that because it's a living thing and it's a living process, it moves and fluctuates within the year. So it's actually something pretty interesting. So going back to the average selling time is 78 days. So it's about the same thing, not 0 day difference between last year and today. And here, we see only those types of stats. So 75 days, that's where it comes from. And when you see the stars, it's because we don't have the data. And again, we see that it's a selling market. Why? Because the quantity of things sold at the asking price and over asking combined in comparison to the under asking tells us that a Plex well priced will actually sell at the asking price range. So we are still in a seller's market. So when we look at the summary table, we can actually see that the market is still heavily a seller's market. Why? Because we did have 1,201 houses that sold, 291 houses, 675 condos. We are in Montreal, and I do find that it's normal because we want to densify the area, which is okay, but I find it sad that Montreal is becoming more and more a condo city. But I mean, it is what it is. And then 235 Plexes sold. The average price went up for all the variables that we are looking at. So 760,000 for houses. Before last year, it was 689,000. So that's without any change in the houses. You would have gotten a 10% boost. 465,000 versus 445 last year, 840 versus 767 for Plexes, and the average days is 60, 75, 78. Now, what I always like to do at the end because we do have two types of markets, two types of ways of selling houses here in Quebec. One is working with a realtor, and the other one is using what we call the marketing company du proprio. And it's always important to know, and everybody can actually sell their own ways, which is okay. But if I had to actually plan the sale of my house, I would like to know, if ever I got into a project, how would I actually fare in that type of project? What would be my percentage of success in comparison with both of them? So, and it's actually easy to see is that it's the quantity of house sold in each type of different solutions that's being offered to me in comparison, and then comparing one and the other and making a head out of everything. And when we look at this here, so each first of the month or around of, I look on du proprio to see what actually sold 30-day priors in Montreal, what sold, and on the date of January 1st, 2025. So it's actually something that's accessible to everybody. And what you see here is that only 15 houses on everything that sold combined were sold by FSBOs. This being said, when we do a rule of three, and a rule of three is we want percentage of who has what type of market in this case. That's what we're looking at. We can actually look at that there's only 1.23% that were actually sold with FSBOs in comparison to 98.77% that sold with realtors. It comes to image when we look at this pie chart. So the overwhelming houses that were sold in December 2024, and it's something that I see month after month after month, were sold with realtors. This being said, with good information, you can actually make a good decision. So again, my name is Jonathan Cabana, and if you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, all the information is in the description. You can actually reach me out so we can ask ourselves a couple of questions to see how I can possibly help you out. Don't hesitate to subscribe and leave comments in the description too. Have a beautiful day, guys, and make 2025 something great.